嗨，大家好，我们又好久都没有见面了。然后在之前呢，我们一直是在讲希腊的历史。那么从这一期开始呢，我们要开始讲希腊罗马的历史。我们进度到了罗马，那我呢就少说废话，有请我们的讲师北坤。
Hi, welcome back to our new season, and of course, we will be talking about Rome these few classes. And so, for the first class, we will be talking about the beginning of Rome because that is essentially the start of, like the Roman Empire and the whole thing about Rome. Also, since that video we showed you in the beginning wasn't as long, was very long, and like we didn't have enough time to finish it, maybe we can put in the next class, we can maybe look at more of it in the
we can
beginning.
continue.
All right, so actually the beginning of Rome wasn't as grand as you would expect. You may expect Rome to be like a very big empire that expanded quickly, but it actually wasn't. In the beginning, Rome was 7 villages on hills, and they were considered, well, part of Greece, but they were not considered a very big faction. They were also very short, and unlike in the art we see now, in which they're depicted like these very big and tall warriors. However, in reality, they're like hobbits. Has anyone read Lord of the Rings or Hobbit?
Oh wait, isn't like Rome? Didn't they start like with like legend says that they have started like 2 people, and then like they were like living off the milk of a mother wolf, and then like one person wanted to be king, and then he caved the other person's skull in with a shovel, and then they invited a bunch of neighboring cities, and then they like took all their women.
Yes, that is. We will be talking about that later on, and that's the story of Romulus and Remus. We will be talking about that. Like that was essentially kind of the beginning of the Rome, but we will be talking about that story last today. Before that, we will mainly be talking about like what came before Rome.
罗马人把自己他们希望自己是半神的后代，但实际上他们最开始的起源就是在意大利半岛上面黑头发的强壮的一些农民，就好像是 Hobbit 人和右边的 Hobbit 人是他们实际的样子，然后左边是他们想象中他们祖先的样子。
They kind of made themselves into a very high figure. We can see this technique in many different cultures as well, and many different people. Everybody wants to connect themselves to something greater than themselves, like how some Greek people, they connected themselves to like the gods. How Alexander the Great, he connected not him, but his mother connected him to Zeus. However, in reality, Romans they were just strong but short people. And now we can see one of these references in modern culture. Have you guys read Harry Potter? You guys have read Harry Potter, right? You guys know how Lord Voldemort, or Tom Riddle Jr., he's actually a half-blood. His father is a muggle, which is normal people, and normal people are often looked down upon. So he tried to hide the fact that he was, half normal, and instead connected himself to the great Salazar Slytherin, who was a founder of the biggest magic school of the time. He connected himself to like a higher sort of being than himself in order for him to raise his own status, instead of connecting himself to his direct parents who were not so high and mighty. Many people adopted this technique, and the Romans, who were their civilization wasn't that strong at the time, so they kind of took in all of the Greek civilization, including the gods, the mythology, the philosophy, etc. But before we go into that, we can show you guys a small clip. Any?
Oh wait, like I remember like Roman basically copied everything. Like There's like
Yeah, almost.
我们接下来就会讲到他们是怎样的一个 copy。
We'll be talking about that after the clip of Harry Potter. This clip is in which Tom Riddle reveals that he is Lord Voldemort and kind of explains the reason why he even changed his name, because his surname, which is his last name, is Riddle, right? Riddle, which is what connects him to his father. And he had the same name as his father, so he couldn't like be under the identity of a normal person. So instead, he changed his name and he connected himself to Slytherin because he had Slytherin blood.
Please don't be dead. Wake up. You've got to help me, Tom. There's a basilisk.
It won't come until it's called.
Give me my wand, Tom.
You won't be needing it.
Listen, we've got to go. We've got to save her.
I'm afraid I can't do that, Harry. You see, as poor Ginny grows weaker, I grow stronger. Yes, Harry. It was Ginny Weasley who opened the Chamber of Secrets.
No, she couldn't. She wouldn't.
It was Ginny who set the basilisk on the Mudbloods and Filch's cat. Ginny who wrote the threatening messages on the walls.
But why?
Because I told her to. You'll find I can be very persuasive. Not that she knew what she was doing. She was, shall we say, in a kind of trance. Still, the power of the diary began to scare her, and she tried to dispose of it in the girls' bathroom. And then, who should find it but you? The very person I was most anxious to meet.
And why did you want to meet me?
I knew I had to talk to you, meet you if I could. So I decided to show you my capture of that brainless oaf Hagrid, to gain your trust.
Hagrid's my friend. And you framed him, didn't you?
It was my word against Hagrid's. Only Dumbledore seemed to think he was innocent.
I bet Dumbledore saw right through you.
He certainly kept an annoyingly close watch on me after that. I knew it wouldn't be safe to open the chamber again while I was still at school, so I decided to leave behind a diary, preserving my 16-year-old self in its pages so that one day I would be able to lead another, to finish Salazar Slytherin's noble work.
Well, you haven't finished it this time. In a few hours, the Mandrake draft will be ready, and everyone who is petrified will be all right again.
Haven't I told you? Killing Mudbloods doesn't matter to me anymore. For many months now, my new target has been you. How is it that a baby with no extraordinary magical talent was able to defeat the greatest wizard of all time? How did you escape with nothing but a scar while Lord Voldemort's powers were destroyed?
Why do you care how I escaped? Voldemort was after your time.
Voldemort is my past, present, and future.
You.
That is a short clip, and we will be stopping there because we won't really go past that point, because past that point doesn't have anything to do with this. You see, in order to hide his past, he sort of covered it up with, like, Lord Voldemort, the nowadays most strongest dark wizard. And he also said Lord Voldemort was a descendant of Salazar Slytherin, and not Tom Riddle Jr. was a descendant of Tom Riddle Sr. Because of this, he sort of changed the way the world looked upon him, because he was now the high and mighty Salazar Slytherin, one of the 4 houses in the founders' descendant instead of a Muggle's descendant.
The Romans do the same thing.
Yeah, the Romans did the same thing, but many other people did as well. So, for example, we'll be looking at Alexander here. Alexander, actually, his mother related him to Zeus. She's implied that she had a dream in which Zeus basically gave birth to Alexander implying that Alexander is the son of Zeus, not son of Philip II.
给大家介绍一下这个雕像好吗？
Let me see. So this statue here, it may be Zeus or Poseidon. It's actually the statue that was given to the United Nations by Greece. And it's a replica, not the real statue, but it's depicting either Zeus or Poseidon because we can't really see who it is. The Greeks, as we mentioned before, they sculpted themselves very stereotypically. Basically, like every one of their sculptures their faces were the same. They had the same curly beard and were tall and had muscles and etc. Now, here's a question. This statue, nobody actually knows whether it's Zeus or Poseidon because this hand could be holding either a thunderbolt or a trident. Which one do you guys think it is? Do you think it's Zeus or Poseidon?
I personally think that it's kind of like either like Poseidon, because a thunderbolt, it would be like kind of short and like it would be squiggly kind of. But if it was a trident, it would be like long and straight, and it would like perfectly match like the way, like, because you wouldn't really throw it like more people throw javelins by putting like a hand in front and kind of throwing it like that.
Yeah, I actually have no idea who it is. Anyway, this statue here, let me get my laser pointer out again. This statue here is fun to say Hercules, the statue of Hercules. I think the hand behind his back has 2 apples in it. It's a very stereotypical Greek person. He's all muscular, and his arm has his club. He's like leaning on it. The reason we showed this statue here is because the Romans said that they were the descendants of the mighty Hercules. So instead of relating themselves to like the hobbit-like ancestors, the short ancestors, they related themselves to the great and mighty hero, probably like one of the heroes that you can't say anything bad about, Hercules. And using this, they sort of hid like how their past was, like the short Romans. And you?
I remember like the goal, is it like I have a question, like is it like the goal of every Roman is to like get at like every Roman senate is to get like there's like 2 senates like in total, right? So like they have 1 year to get as many naked statues as possible.
We're not going to talk about like the government in this one. We're mostly going to talk about like the stories about how Rome was created and before what happened before Rome. We may talk about the government later, like maybe like a few weeks later, but not today.
我们这一期大概是主要是讲简略的历史，所以我们不会讨论 government。好。
Okay, so this picture is drawn by Albrecht Altdorfer, who lived in 1480 and 1538. It is a very giant picture. As you can see, the details are immense. And this giant picture, this is the full picture, by the way. This picture is probably pretty big. I'm not very sure how big it is. It's called the Battle of Alexander at Issus. So basically, the Battle of Issus was one of Alexander's most famous battles. And this picture was depicting it.
为什么我们说是 useful legend 呢？是因为就是在这场伊苏斯之战中，然后因为亚历山大到处宣扬他，这就是亚历山大宣扬他是宙斯的子孙，然后就是在那个波斯那边的人也相信了这个传说，他就是在这里头，大家后来对于他的征服，波斯人对于他的征服是很快的就臣服于他了，然后并没有造成什么障碍，很多东西就是因为他有这种传说在里头，给他起到了很好的作用。 Please translate.
So basically, this is Alexander here riding the horse. This is the Persian general. And since Olympias, as you guys may remember, or maybe you guys don't remember, does anyone still remember who Olympias is? I probably didn't mention her that much, but Olympias was Alexander's mother. And she spread the word, like she made a bunch of rumors about Alexander being the son of Zeus, and everybody believed it, even the enemy. So, yeah, that's Darius. And so when they, because Alexander's the son of Zeus, they sort of got scared and didn't want to face him, so they backed away. And Alexander won that battle. Of course, it wasn't just the rumors, the legend. It was more like they got sort of weakened by it. So now we can I'm just gonna continue then. So now we will actually begin talking about the beginning of Rome. Anybody still remember the Iliad?
Yeah, I think it's like a really long poem or something.
The Trojan War. So, this painting by Giovanni Battista Pittoni. Okay, long names, am I right? Who, 1687 to 1767. This picture is called The Sacrifice of Polyxena. Of course, Polyxena isn't that well known, but basically this took place after the fall of Troy. As you may know, Homer wrote two epic poems about the Trojan War and like its aftermath. Basically, the Iliad, which talked about the most eventful parts of the Trojan War, but didn't describe the ending, I don't think. And also the Odyssey, which talked about Odysseus going home, and did talk about how they sacked Troy. However, most of how they end up defeating Troy was written in the Aeneid, written by Virgil, almost I think 800 years after, in 30 BC. Virgil was commissioned by Augustus to write the Aeneid, which we will talk about later. But basically what I'm saying here is the end of the Trojan War was mainly talked about in the Aeneid, and I think this and really talked about this much. So basically, after the Trojan War, they sacked Troy, the wooden horse and such, and they killed all the soldiers and captured all the women and children. And so they got distributed, and somehow Achilles, who died a few weeks before, came crawling out of his grave, like out of the underworld, and demanded Polyxena, who was a Trojan princess, to be sacrificed for him. And Polyxena then does a bunch of honorable things and says like, oh, you can kill me and the honor of Troy will live on and such. And so she gets sacrificed by Achilles' son, and then Achilles, happy with his sacrifice, goes back.
你可以给大家指一下谁是
Yeah. So, as you may see, this is Achilles, who just came out of the underworld. Not sure how that quite works, but he probably...
his son.
No,
It's Achilles' son.
Didn't Achilles come out of the underworld?
No.
He did.
Because it's like weird. I'm just thinking Achilles, like a ghost of Achilles, just comes out of the underworld and asks for a sacrifice, and after the sacrifice is done, it just like goes back.
在那个艾尼阿斯里面就写到了那个特洛伊陷落之后，然后活着的人有多么的悲惨。大家是说，他说死去的人反而是比较幸福的，因为他们的悲剧已经终结了，但是活着的人他们的悲剧还在继续。然后他就说，被征服的人只有一条活路，那就是不要有希望，不要希望有活路，就是非常的悲惨。然后这个 这个公主，你看她穿着纯白的衣服，然后她神态也非常的就是顺从，然后也比较对死亡，她也已经是毫无惧意了，因为她知道这是不可避免的。然后那些战胜者，你看就是阿克琉斯的这个儿子啊，还有他的其他的那些士兵们，都趾高气扬的，就这种悲惨，就一个战争里头有赢的人，也有输的人。就我们只看到了赢的人怎么样，但是输的人在艾尼阿斯里头是描写的非常的详细的。You can translate.
Okay, so that's a lot to process. First of all, in the war there is winners and losers. We usually see the winning side, as in the Iliad. We saw how the Greeks celebrated after Hector died, and how Achilles was like bragging about this, like saying, "Oh my God, I killed Hector! I'm so proud," and etc. But we kind of get to see the losing side, because in the Aeneid, which is a story about Aeneas, Aeneas was like the number 2 Greek, the Trojan hero in the Iliad. We kind of see the losing side a bit, and then quickly Aeneas gets lucky again. But basically, what I'm saying is we don't really get to see the losing side and how they suffer. Instead, we may see the winning side, who rejoice. So now we will actually be talking about the Aeneid. This picture is Aeneas fleeing from Troy. He is taking his family and many other Trojan refugees. This picture is drawn by Federico Barocci from 1535 to 1612. A lot of these pictures are actually not drawn that old, because that old probably wouldn't have survived until then. So we'll kind of be talking about the Aeneid. All right, so the Aeneid, as you know, these poems are actually very, very, their names aren't very original, because you know, in Iliad is kind of meant Troy, so Iliad kind of meant Troy's story, and Odyssey kind of just meant Odysseus' story, and same with Aeneid. Aeneid just means Aeneas' story. But once you put that into ancient Greek language, it sounds kind of cool now. It's about Aeneas running away from Troy and going around the world, just like how Odysseus did, and finally going to Italy and but he kind of establishes a settlement, and then it was actually his descendants, Romulus and Remus, that founded Troy. However, before I begin, disclaimer, Virgil kind of copied a lot from Homer, a lot from Odysseus. You may see many resemblances, and also we will also be converting from Greek gods to Roman gods. So we will be instead of Zeus, will be calling him Jupiter. I think that's his. It's not that hard to memorize Roman god names. Everybody's probably heard of the planets. Can you guys name a planet in our solar system?
Earth.
No, not Earth. Not Earth. Earth doesn't count. Okay, Earth does not count. Any other one?
Saturn.
Yeah, Saturn. Saturn is Kronos. Kronos, the Zeus's father. Saturn is the Roman version, as of the other ones, such as Mercury. Mercury is Parados Hermes, and Venus is Aphrodite, Mars is Ares, etc. Some of them are not planets, like Athena, who is Minerva, but we won't really be talking about them that much. It's mainly just Jupiter, who was Zeus, Juno, Hera, and Venus, I think. Oh yeah, and Neptune. So basically what happened was Aeneas, after getting saved on the battlefield by Aphrodite, basically this verse talks about Aeneas leaving Troy, and then like Poseidon kind of knocking him off. Neptune knocking him off course, just like how Poseidon did to Odysseus. Then Aeneas then finds himself in Carthage and with the Queen Dido. So basically, Queen Dido allows them to come in and talk about his adventures over the dinner table, just like how Odysseus did when he reached Phaeacia, and he talked about his adventures. So basically, this is another one of those parts where Aeneas himself tells his own story about what happened before, just to like tell the story to Queen Dido, who is in the story that Virgil is telling us.
我看到那个安提阿斯里头和那个奥德赛，他们虽然是 copy 奥德赛的，但是它里头有一段就是他跟那个怪兽相遇的时候，为什么奥德赛那么辛苦，他却那么容易的通过了呢？要不要给大家讲讲这段非常有意思？
That is true, but we will be following the order of Aeneas. So basically he starts talking about how like they go. This is like back when Troy was still alive, not sacked, and they go out and they see, oh no, where are the Greeks? They ran away, leaving behind this giant wood horse. You guys have heard about the wooden horse, right? How the wooden horse of Troy.
Do you remember? Wooden horse.
Yeah, like they push in a great wooden horse and they're like, oh, we're so sorry. We're giving you this gift, and then like a few hours later, like a bunch of soldiers jump out and like slaughter the people.
Yeah. So they find the Greek camp empty except with a giant wooden horse that could totally have about 20 Greek, probably more, but a bunch of Greek soldiers inside, but they suspect nothing. Also, there's this kid called Simon, I think. A kid called Simon just on the outside of the Greek horse. And they, of course, they capture Simon and they take him in for questioning. Because, if you just see somebody, you need them to explain about, like, what's going on? I thought we were at war. Why did they just run? So Simon says that how the Greeks, they were homesick. They wanted to go home. And they left behind this very, very complex monument to Athena. And if you even touch it, if you like destroy it, just a tiny bit, Athena will be super mad and curse you. Whereas if you bring it within your city walls, then Athena will actually bless you because that's her monument, her sort of like sacrificial monument. Of course, the Greeks suspect nothing. Of course, they all want to get blessed by Athena. So they do as he says and brings the wooden horse inside. And then, of course, that night, Simon goes and unlocks the horse. The Greeks come out and start burning everything. And Aeneas was sleeping. He wakes up and he wants to like fight for his city, but his family convinces him to run. And that typical phrase, like, as long as there are still children, people alive, and such. How in movies they say this Troy is not a city but of the people. So basically he takes the people and run. That was a reference. And run, and there was actually a prophecy saying how he would found the greatest empire, worldwide empire, which was later called Rome, the worldwide empire, if he reaches Italy. And of course, the prophecy also said that that empire would also destroy one of Juno, Hera's favorite towns. So Juno does not want this to happen. So she tells Iolaus, the king of the wind, in the Odyssey, Iolaus actually takes a bag of wind and actually lets Odysseus go until his crewmates mess up and open it, and he gets sent back. So Juno convinces Iolaus to mess up the winds and send Aeneas away. So Aeneas is kind of lost now, and they dock at Libya, and he assures everybody that it's okay, we're all gonna be fine, but he has no idea where he is and if he's at Italy or not, because he doesn't actually know what Italy looks like. Somewhere along, he gets cursed by a harpy which is harpy is like one of those creatures. They're very evil. They have wings for arms, and they're very annoying according to
Wait.
Greek myths.
Are they kind of like half lion, half like bird?
They're sort of like half bird, half people, and basically they curse him to get really starved, and then later they go on and they actually they make it past Cyclops and get a character that wasn't mentioned previously in the Odyssey, but Virgil decided to write him into the story as one of Odysseus's crew members. So then he doesn't account what happened between Charybdis and Scylla, but apparently something went so smoothly that nothing happened. It's like they weren't even there. So basically, while Odysseus had his whole shipwreck, was hanging on a tree and for like many days, and finally found a piece of wood to hang on, Aeneas gets through as if they didn't exist. So he finishes recounting Araxes with Queen Dido for a few days until Venus, his mother, and Zeus or Jupiter convinces him to keep going. And basically he sneaks out while Queen Dido, who finds out, kind of like commits suicide because she's so mad, and she also swears on her last dying breath that they would forever be at war. And then Aeneas, after a bit of traveling, he actually does find Italy. However, he doesn't know what it looks like, and he sort of like uses a loophole to exploit the harpy's curse, where the harpy said, like, you will be so, by the time you find Italy, you'll be so starved that you're eating your tables. And by this time, Aeneas is eating pizza, and they were actually using flatbread as tables, and they put toppings on it, so he accidentally ate the bread. And so he was kind of eating his table, and so he realizes this, and he knows it's Italy, and he kind of settled down.
大家还记得吗？我们在讲希腊的时候就讲过，古希腊的人会把面包当做碗和盘子来用。然后在这个地方，然后古代的罗马人原来也是这样的呀，就
They
非常
sort
有
of
意思。
exploited a very, very it's not a very good loophole, but it's still a loophole. So basically he settles down. There's this queen called Latinus, and then he marries his daughter, and then at this point they copy the Iliad, in which a very, very popular suitor, there are a lot of suitors who are going for Latinus's daughter. The most popular is Turnus, and basically Juno, who was so obsessed on trying to stop Aeneas from reaching Italy, becomes mad and starts a conflict and makes Turnus very angry. And then this part of the story turns Aeneas into a version of Achilles. He gets this friend, a very close friend called Pallas, similar to Patroclus, who dies at the hands of Turnus, who mirrors like Hector, and then takes Pallas's armor. And then Aeneas kills Turnus and then sets the enemy city on fire. Like, like a few months ago, he was actually very angry about his own city getting set on fire, and now he's setting someone else's city on fire. So Virgil kind of turned Aeneas into the combination of the man who murdered his prince and the man who burned down his city. But as long as he has the characteristics of a main character, people still want to read this story.
其实他这个故事就是把荷马的这个2个史诗全部都抄了一遍，前面部分抄奥德赛，后面抄伊利亚特。
It would honestly be way easier to account for everything that isn't the same. But of course, we're here to talk about the main things, and all the main things are copied.
然后这就是这个诗人给罗马人编织的这个起源的故事。他们的祖先从此之后就不再是村庄里的矮小的粗壮的农民了，而是一个半神之子，是特洛伊战争。他们的祖先可以追溯到特洛伊那么战争时候那么古老的那个一个文明去，他们就把自己的这个层级提升了，把自己从一个就是文明不太发达的地区，然后跟一个高等文明的地区给联系起来了。
So they like they weren't descendants of imps, of hobbits anymore. They were descendants of the great half god, not half god, more like demigod, Aeneas, the like second best person of Troy. And now, as we mentioned before, we would mainly be talking about the stories about Romulus and Remus and like their founding of Troy.
问问有没有人知道？
I know Annie does, but anyone else who knows about the story? Brian, how much do you know? Don't spoil.
Isn't it like Romulus and Remus, like they grew up young and they were like with the wolf person Lupa, I think? Yeah, the wolf lady, and she fed them both, and then they became like older, and then some sort of dispute happened, and then somebody killed the other guy, and then founded Rome.
Yes.
还有其他人知道更多的细节吗？
Head in with a shovel.
I'm not sure about how they exactly died.
还有人知道吗？还有没有人？好，那伟坤给大家讲讲吧。
Alright. So basically, years after Aeneas's founding of the city, the king was then sabotaged by his brother.
罗慕鲁斯和雷穆斯是战神马尔斯的儿子。
So basically, after Aeneas, the rightful throne was stolen by Romulus and Remus's uncle, I think, and then their mother was then imprisoned, so she couldn't have any possible children to take the throne. But then somehow Mars gets into her dream, and then she gets pregnant with twins, and then when their uncle finds out, he is so mad because that was not supposed to happen, and he is like utterly angry that his plans got foiled. However,
Jupiter do the same thing as sometimes.
However, it's not too late. He can still kill the children, although it's down bad, but he can still kill the children. So he sends his servants to kill his children. But the servant, once again, like so many other myths, you know, like Snow White, the hunter didn't kill Snow White. And like
Paris.
Yeah.
Do you remember Paris?
Yeah, Paris wasn't killed either. And then so Romulus and Remus, they actually leave him in the forest, left to die because he couldn't do it himself. He is I'm gonna let this wolf kill them. But instead the wolf actually takes them in and feeds them and raises them until finally some shepherds find them. You know how shepherds actually have a very great role in heroism. Like so many of the heroes are saved by they're like left to die and then saved by a shepherd, and they go back, they realize their true identity and take back the throne, etc. The shepherds mainly pray because they're like the people that can actually go into the wilderness and will not get caught doing it. So basically after this, they get raised for a bit, and then one of them actually gets captured, and in what I think it was Remus gets captured. Yeah, and then Romulus finds out more about their true identity, and then it's like this huge arc in which they take back the throne from their uncle and restore their grandfather to the throne. Originally, they were supposed to be the heir. They were supposed to be like the heir to the kingdom. But they decided, oh, we're going to make our own kingdom because we're just so great and mighty. So how one of them actually died. It was Remus who died, by the way, because Romulus, they named their cities after themselves. Like Alexander named like 50 cities Alexandria,
except one.
Except one who he named
his
Bucephlia
horse.
after his horse. So it was actually Romulus who lived. Remus died, by the way. Romulus, he named the city Rome. Because Romulus.
其实他们俩的口角就是非常的小，罗姆鲁斯想要把那个城市建在那个山上，然后罗姆斯呢，他想建在山脚下，然后他们俩就因为这个争执起来了。后来他们俩就各自建各自的城，但是有一天呢，罗姆斯就越过了他们俩的那个中界线，然后跳过了那个城墙，把那城墙他们的中界线的那个小墙给毁掉了，可能都没有什么城墙，就是一个小土块把给毁掉了。然后罗姆鲁斯就非常的生气，他的脾气也非常的不好，然后他就把罗姆斯给杀掉了自己的弟弟。
So like their dispute was actually one of them wanted to build their kingdom, their like city, their palace on top of the mountain. One of them wanted to build at the foot of the mountain. So because of something so insignificant, they built their own cities, which was actually good until like their swerve wall gets broken by Remus. It was actually his fault. Yeah, Romulus kills him because, I mean, like, who could forgive breaking a wall? Like, who could forgive that? It was just a wall. Romulus kills Remus and then proceeds to keep building his own kingdom. However, his kingdom right now was comprised of many people who had nowhere to go because he couldn't just take somebody. Like, people who have decent lives, they wouldn't give that up just for like a random city they don't even heard of. His people were mainly consisted of like homeless people who couldn't support themselves anymore, like criminals and like murderers and such people, just like Romulus. Also he didn't have any woman, and without woman he wouldn't have any descendants. Without descendants, his city can't grow. So basically he does something very, very bad. Basically he holds like a festival, a sports festival,
and steals all the women.
Yeah. It's like sports festival, woo! Everybody brings their family, and then he just abducts every woman there, and then like basically chase off the rest of the people with like swords and they're armed, have shields and spears. They brought nothing, man. They thought it was gonna be a peaceful sports event, not like this. So after a few years, like people did try to get them back, but then Romulus with his army beat them back. After the few years, they already had like descendants, and Sabine was like a very powerful country, by the way. Rome wasn't that big back then, you know. If Rome was in its empire ages, they could have taken anything, but Rome wasn't that powerful, so they still had trouble fighting Sabine.
他其实最开始也是希望用和平的方式，就是说希望其他的那个部落把他们的女儿嫁给他的城市里面的人，但是谁愿意把自己的女儿嫁给那么一个又穷，然后
They're like, what's that? Like, why would they? Why? It's like they're like.
对，然后他们就其他的部落也并不愿意嘛，然后他们就对，就是然后他们就最后就想了一个办法，就是办这个运动会，然后后来这些女性他们就是被劫掠走了，然后后来呢，就是大家都希望他们当时不只是劫掠了萨宾的妇女，还劫掠了周围
everybody else。
对，然后他们劫掠了很多的妇女，然后其他的部落肯定大家都会去征伐他们，然后他们就一个一个打败了他们。很多为什么单独说萨宾呢？是因为其他部落实在是被打败的太快了。You can translate.
I have a question.
Yeah.
didn't Roman people when they invade cities, don't they like slaughter all the men and auction all the women and children?
They kind of chase them off. You know, if they can't actually start everybody. They don't have that much manpower. Most of them ran back, reported this, and started a war. I don't know if they were rich enough to hold an auction. They probably didn't have enough money to go any higher than 500 coins.
他们把所有的男人都赶走了，只抢了女的。
Okay, and then as you can see in this picture, it's called The Intervention of the Seven Women by Jacques David, 1748 to 1825. I don't know why I should read that, but this picture is basically Rome and Sabine fighting, and then it's like it's like years have passed, and they actually they had children, they developed like some sort of love, and so they don't want to fight their like family or their newfound husbands, so they put their children in the middle, and they sort of stop both sides.
对他们，萨宾的妇女把他们的孩子放在战场的中间，然后希望阻止这场战争，希望他们的父亲和他们的丈夫，然后停止作战。这其实是一个很悲惨的故事，但是大家历史上的绘画里头都是把它作为一种就是女性象征和平的一种意思吧。但是实际上细细的想起来是非常悲惨的一个事情，女性在战争当中是没有地位的。
Now that right now it's depicted as like a strong fight for peace, but back then it was actually not that. It wasn't that glorified. It was more like begging them to stop, because if they actually didn't stop, they would just kill everybody in the middle, trample the babies if they didn't actually look. And after this, the Roman Empire, Romulus then had many conquests and expanded it very, very quickly. And I think in the 20 years after he created Rome.
罗马很快就是他们和萨宾的这场战争结束之后，两个部落就合并了。
Yeah, they sort of combined, merged together. Yeah, about that. Rome is actually very, very, very open to new visitors, like to people like immigrants, etc., people who have no place to go, because Romulus is like, oh my god, they're here to join us, come on, we can become stronger. But back then Greece,
it's a very different. Yeah.
Such as like Athens, the rest of Greece was actually, they very rarely gave citizenship to random people. They were like, if you weren't born here, if your family wasn't born here, you can't stay here. And Sparta was where Sparta would never give citizenship to anybody.
对的，后来他们这两个部落合并了之后，他们就选举了两个国王，一个是罗姆鲁斯，然后另外一个是一个萨宾人的首领当了那个国王。但是过了几年之后，大约是5年之后吧，然后这个萨宾的那个国王就被一个外国使节杀害了。但是大家都怀疑背后的主使是罗姆鲁斯。
Yeah, and then that.
Could you please translate?
So after they combined, they actually selected 2 kings, because if one king was like Roman, one king was like Sabine, and if like they only had one king, and then they would get a lot of hate for being one of one side. For example, a Roman king would get a bunch of hate from Sabine. It's like modern day elections, And then so they selected Romulus, of course, because he was representing the Roman side, and this other Sabine leader who we don't care too much about. He was there killed. Many people suspect it was Romulus, but they actually had no proof.
因为
恩怡。
I remember is it because Sparta is always having festivals, they're like, oh, we're too busy. Like, we have like too many gods to worship.
I mean, I did say that a lot, but that's not the reason of everything. So Sparta is very strict, as you can see. Sparta, they don't deal with like politics and etc. They probably just spend all their day training. They don't have enough time to manage citizenship, etc. Because if they like, oh, you can come in, you can become a citizen, then they'll have to deal with, oh, well, then are my wife and children citizens? Are my family citizens? And like, do my friends get to be citizens? It will be too much. This is why most people don't change how they live. Like, if you suddenly shift from one to another, you have to like remake the whole system.
然后在罗姆鲁斯和这个他的另外一个国王，然后就是萨宾人的国王，然后被杀掉之后，罗姆鲁斯就成了唯一的这个国王了。然后他呢，他就成了唯一的国王。然后他从此之后呢，他就变得。他可能本身也没有变吧，他就是变得非常的专断，然后就一个人决定所有的事情。本来应该是元老院和国王一起来决定国家的事情，但是现在元老院唯一的特权就是比其他的人早一点听到他的命令。Could you please?
So after that, Romulus began to become way more like a tyrant. You know, not the last time, but like the last time I heard of this tyrant. You guys know Caesar? You guys know Caesar?
Yeah.
Caesar's Pizza.
No, not Little Caesar's, not Caesar's salad, but the emperor. You know, Caesar. He wasn't a king yet. He was a dictator, and then he became more arrogant, more like a tyrant, and then he was assassinated, stabbed 23 times. So same with not same with Romulus, but he was getting like his powers getting out of hand. In the beginning, it was supposed to be, if I reinforce it was supposed to be him, the king, and the Senate, which would decide on major decisions. However, Romulus got like so bossy that he's like, hey, Senate, I'm going to do this thing and you can't stop me. Basically, all the Senate would get all their special privileges. They would hear his commands, his orders before normal people did. They were just there to just hear what he was going to do. They don't get to like disapprove or approve for that matter. They just get to, they get like a sneak peek of the new book that he's going to write. They get a sneak peek of the commands he's going to issue. And then later, so many people were dissatisfied with him that like when he died, many people thought that was like assassination. However, many people wrote his death was actually like godly. You know how people die, they ascend to the sky. He was taking a walk and then like the sky crowded up, and then there's like this light, this godly light that shone on him. That shone on him. I was trying to get the light, but it didn't work. Okay, the light that shone on him, and then he started ascending to the sky. You know how gods ascend? Ascend, and he basically
We're like levitate.
Yeah.
Which part did he get pulled up to? Did he get pulled up by the foot, or does he like?
No. He was like like that sort of, the flying type.
He was like upside down getting dragged.
No. He was normal. He was right side up. Right side up. He was just going up like a god, like ascending. He wasn't getting pulled, okay? It didn't look painful. It looked very enlightening. And then he's like, to everybody else, he's like, you must treat me like a god. His final words, or you must treat me like a god. And then he disappears. He gets like sucked up into the sky. And
很多历史学家根本不信这个。
Of course, nobody would believe that. What happened?
当时的很多老百姓是信这个的，因为大家那个时候相信神，但是很多历史学家不相信，他们都觉得可能是当时的元老院的人谋杀了他，因为他们本来就一直就对他又害怕又愤怒，然后找到一个机会。
And then they just made a cover-up story, so. So basically, many historians thought that it was actually the Senate that had assassinated him. Because like how would they die? Like also it was like very valid reasoning. Probably the Senate like spread word of him ascending because you know they don't want to be caught in all of this mess. Because if he dies and no reason is provided, then they're gonna suspect that people that hate him the most. So what they did do was give a cover-up story. Well, I'll be right there. Cover-up story is to make it seem like they're respecting him so they can get rid of their suspicions. All right, and you go ahead.
I'm like imagining him getting dragged off of the ground.
No, he's not getting dragged. He's
walking and like screaming while the gods pull him up into the sky.
He's like ascending. You see how Iron Man flies, sort of like Iron Man into the sky, except like straight up, not like, and he just like goes, you know, Superman, all those superheroes.
如果说这种就是这个谋杀的这个阴谋论是成立的话，那么他这个故事跟我们再过几节课会讲的凯撒是非常相似的。
Talking about how
goes like Superman and just goes like this all the way up to the.
Yeah, you can say it like that. All right. So in the last few minutes, we're going to watch this
just for fun
trailer about this Roman architect who was commissioned to build a bathhouse. He gets like transported, time traveled into modern day Japan, and he's like, oh my god, this civilization, they have automatic water and etc. He doesn't actually know their language, but he gets a lot of inspiration from there and becomes a very great he designs a very great bathhouse.
是的，因为大家可能听了一节课有一点点累了，我们接下来呢是有一个我们找了一个特别有意思的这个小动画，也非常的有名，它的中文名字叫做《罗马浴场》，然后在美国呢，在 Netflix 上呢也可以看，对，非常的有意思，大家可以看一看。
Of course, bathhouse has nothing to do with the founding of Rome, but you know, we're just gonna the first class we're just gonna relax a bit.
Yeah.
なんだここは。そなたが浴場技師のルシウスか。そなたにぜひ浴室を作ってもらいたいのだ。わかりました。何とかいたしましょう。ダメだ、全く浮かばない。なんだこの吸引力は。一体ここはどこだというのだ。顔が平たい。これはなんという文明度の高さだ。この奴隷風呂は使えるぞ。このアイディアを形にすれば斬新さを求めている今のローマ市民に必ず受ける。人が溺れてる。これが便器か。便器の蓋を開けるためだけの奴隷を用意しているのか。大人気漫画をヘルパーさんも来とったんかい。冠この老人は族長なのか。原作にはないオリジナルエピソードを収録しての完全アニメ化。体も心もほっこりのノバエタイムスリップお風呂コメディ。俺日本の銭湯に来たらこれは飲んでおかねえと。ネットフリックスシリーズ「テルマエ・ロマエ・ノバエ」試してみるか。気持ちいい。
It's so goofy, yeah.
You should watch it. You should definitely watch it. Watch it on Netflix.
非常谢谢大家，然后来听我们的这个讲座。我们也希望呢，我们是在轻松愉快的这个环境下，然后让大家比较开心的把历史学下来。然后北坤，你来这个结束语吧。
Thank you everybody for listening to the beginning of Rome. Next time we'll be talking more about how Rome was developed and etc. and more about Rome within the next few weeks. All right, thank you everybody. I'm going to stop recording now.
Bye. Thanks.
Thank you.